draft thing, right, with Fantasy League. Otherwise, everyone would just pick the best players, and everyone would win the Fantasy League, right? So how's it work?
So what they do with the Premiership or with the NFL?
With both, but I'm talking Fantasy League.
So
if you're like picking, because if you were doing fantasy NFL, you just pick Tom Brady and Dak Prescott, or whoever you wanted that was like Khalil Mack, and you just pick those great players.
So the NFL one is a draft.
Okay, so it literally works like their respective systems.
So I think there's a couple of ways you could play it. I think so. For example, if you wanted to get into it, you could do like a weekly basis one where you pick players each week.
Right.
And you've got a certain amount of money, and each player costs a certain amount of money.
Okay. That's
how the Premiership one that I've signed up to is. So you get given like $100,000.
Right.
And you have to spend that on each player. And the game or the app has decided that Rashford is 100 million. Sorry, Rashford's like 17 million.
Okay.
Salah is like 20 million or whatever, and you've got to pick some of these key players, and then you're sort of going into sort of the B team registers of some of like your defenders and some of your goalies and stuff, just to make up the team. But you've got some star players that you're hoping are going to get you big points.
Cool. So obviously, if they're scoring goals or hat tricks or penalties or like
exactly
good points or like making assists or something, they're going to be worth more, right? Or
exactly.
They're going to get you more points.
Yeah, exactly. So I think with defenders, you just want clean sheets and you want game time. So if they're on for 90 minutes, they get a few points.
Oh, cool.
And if they have a clean sheet, the defender and the goalie, they get extra points.
Sweet.
Midfielders and forwards, you just want goals, assists, and game time.
Right.
So they from what I can tell, they seem to be more important than defenders and stuff. You just want sort of like solid defenders with some teams that don't let many goals in, basically.
Right.
The NFL though is a draft, which is really fun. That's the one I did. So you get a group of people in. So my brother runs it. He's into the American football quite a lot.
Oh, cool. Who's his sport?
He's a Titans fan.
Okay. Cool,
so he's a bit of a weird one. So my older brother was born in America. And he was born in Washington.
Cool.
So, as in DC, so he would be Redskins.
Yep.
So he loved the Redskins, or the Washington football team, as they're now called, but we'll still call them Redskins, I think. But
as they're now lamely called.
Yeah, what a terrible name for a team.
Terrible name.
The Washington Football Club. No, football team, whatever they are. Anyway.
Yeah, we don't want to offend anyone or anything. We shall just be called the Washington Football Team.
Yeah. I'm offended.
I'm offended by the lameness of that, of the lameness of that name of that club. I know they said they're going to get round to naming it at some point.
Yeah,
but they're never going to do that. Well, they're just going to be Washington. They're just going to be the Washington Football Team.
Yeah, I think so.
They're not going to change.
Here's their two options, as far as I can see. They either pick a Native American sounding name. Yeah. Because the whole point was
that would get them in the same hot water.
That's it. How do you pick a neutral Native American name that's got no connotations, no like dirty past, nothing to? Because Native Americans, right? I looked this up the other day. They are like it's either 1.3 or 3.1% of the entirety of the United States.
Right.
And considering they were
low, then
very, very low. Considering they were the native populace of a whole continent, that's pretty scary. Low amounts, right? Bad stuff happened to them. Some of it was illness, some of it was wars and stuff, sure, but you're going to struggle to find a name that has some relation to Native Americans that hasn't got some link to that past where they were struggling, still are struggling, by the way. So anyway, they're going to struggle if they can either pick a Native American name, but like I say, a few years down the line, it's going to come back to bite them. Or they pick something that's nothing to do with Native Americans, be a safe name, but then you've lost the whole idea was to big up the Native Americans and keep it in the sort of
fly the flag,
the psyche of America, and if they do that, it completely goes against that. And
now we're talking about Native Americans even less.
Yeah,
if it's like.
And nobody's talking about Native Americans.
The Washington Fighters or Chargers or something. It's like, okay, so now we've forgotten about Native Americans completely now, have we?
Unless maybe they pick a tribe, But then that'll annoy every other tribe that's still going. That's I would imagine. It's like Apache or
Cherokee
or these guys.
Right, yeah.
I don't know. Maybe there's a tribe that was specific to Washington. I guess you can't really go wrong with that.
Yeah, true. But then you can't move the team.
Oh, you're right. Well, there you go.
You can't move the team to Vegas.
Instantly shot my plan. There's holes in the plan. So, yeah, no, they can't do it.
The accountants are going,
yeah.
I'm just looking at attendance figures.
I think LA could do with a third team at some point. So, yeah, what a weird one. So, anyway, he was born there. And he sort of followed them for a little while, but he went to Tennessee for his honeymoon.
Oh, cool.
And absolutely loved it. He's a massive country fan.
Sweet.
So he was just like, Tennessee Titans all the way. So
nice.
He's a big Titans fan.
And the Titans are good.
Yeah.
The Titans are knocking on the door the last couple of seasons.
Yeah.
I don't know what the odds are on them winning this year, but they're a decent team.
They are.
Yeah.
Yeah. So let's should we run through sort of the state of the teams that we've been following?
Let's do it. Okay, since we're on NFL, shall we go NFL first?
Let's do it.
So my team, the Bears, we are currently 2-0. Crazily, because we are so bad. So 2-0 is a term that American sports use just to mean they've won 2 and lost 0. Yeah. Basically, 2-0 is a good thing. But yeah, our quarterback Mitch Trubisky is a wild card, despite him being like a first-round draft pick. So he was like young gun, up and coming, like everybody's hottest pick. The Bears, because they were so crap, they got like the first pick or something. They picked Mitch Trubisky, and he proceeded to suck, basically for years. And we basically drafted Nick Foles, who was a sort of veteran quarterback from the Eagles.
Sounds right, yeah.
Yeah.
I'm not sure.
I think it was the Eagles. Pretty sure it was the Eagles. And
I don't really pay attention to that end of the league.
To the dusty end of the league. So, yeah, obviously a lot of people were thinking, oh, Mitch is going to get scared because they've drafted this veteran guy who's going to kick him out of his job. But they persisted with Mitch. And first couple of games, he's done okay. He's been like very shaky, but he's pulled through when it matters, basically. So we've got to the end of both games and thought, great, good. That was a good win, a good nail-biting win. But it's like he threw some great passes, some great touchdowns, but it was like I don't have full faith in him. And nothing's changed, basically, going into week 3. So we've got the Atlanta Falcons tomorrow. And it's basically the same story again. Like, we're coming off 2 wins, but we're still worried that he's going to screw up big time. And our once behemoth defence are not as behemoth as they once were.
They're not bad though.
They're still good. They're still good, but they were like the best defence in the league. But now they're sort of the shine's been knocked off a little bit.
Yeah,
a couple of injuries, couple of changes, and all of a sudden we can't completely rely on the defence. So now it's like we've got the passing game and the running game's got to be good this season. So that's where we're at. A bit of luck's helped us out. We're going strong, but we're on shaky ground.
Sure.
That's all I'm going to say.
Okay. Yeah, I'm with you. I mean, I caught the tail end, the very beginning, about the first quarter of the last week's game, which was against who?
Giants.
Giants, that's it.
New York Giants. They're a relatively easy team to beat.
Yeah, they're a shoe-in. They should be. Well, no, maybe not. I don't know, but that's a bit mean. But and he was slinging it about and looking good. And I was in Somerset and I had to drive home, so I missed all the football basically that night. But before I left, it was looking strong.
He was making some passes.
Yeah.
I think Trubisky's just got to a point now where he's sort of like, well, everyone's dissing me anyway.
Yeah.
Everyone thinks I'm rubbish. I'm just going to sling a few Hail Marys, and a few of them have come off. Mm-hmm. And we've gone, oh, okay. Yeah. This could be good if you could do this all the time.
Yeah.
Like Pat Mahomes of the Chiefs.
Consistency you've got to get.
That's the problem. That's the word, consistency. Yeah. So we're there's been little glimmers of this is great. God, this could be amazing if he did this every play. Mm-hmm. but he doesn't.
Yeah.
I mean, obviously not every quarterback can do it every time, but like sometimes where he just completely screws up, and it's like, oh, okay, this may not be good. But
yeah,
I think if you were a betting man, I think you'd put a couple of quid on Bears just to be like a sort of Leicester City style shock. Do you know what I mean? I'd definitely put money on us making the playoffs.
Yeah.
But you've got to be a brave man to put money on the Super Bowl.
That's the thing. It's because that's where it's so funny how you can see these. It happens with rookies all the time, quarterbacks especially. Like they'll do really well during the season, and then they hit the playoffs and they just crumble.
Yeah. And
Trubinsky strikes me as that he needs to be hardened.
Yeah.
To it, because once the pressure's on, the wheels can come off very easily. So I would love to see the Bears in the playoffs.
So I definitely would.
Yeah, because that would be momentous. Because, like I say, they were such a legendary team back in the day, and having them sort of kind of reach that level would be good soon. And they will at some point. They will. It's very rare for a team to just stay down forever.
Yeah. We're also struggling with kicker as well.
Yeah.
We were in the playoffs in 2018, and I think we were playing the Eagles, and it was like a last second field goal attempt that would have put us through in the playoffs, and it was a double doink, which is a funny American term, which means that there's like a last minute kick. All the pressure is on the kicker basically to get it over the uprights, and he kicks it, and it doinks on the side of the H, and then it drops down and doinks again on the sort of crossbar of the H and bounces out. So like a double doink is like a hilarious Simpsons-esque occurrence where a kicker just gets completely disowned by an entire state.
Yeah.
It's just like, if you're that guy, you just want to crawl into a hole and die, right?
Yeah.
Last second field goal, glory or complete distress.
They are the darts players of American football. They turn up, they've got a belly that's like a beer belly that they've been cultivating for they're probably like almost 40.
Yeah.
Their only job is to kick the ball. Yeah. A couple of teams, sometimes they do fake kicks and they'll try and run with the ball, but just almost exclusively your job is to turn up and you kick a ball straight. And it's, these kicks, if you compare them to rugby, where you can be kicking them all over the shop, the angle on it is insane in rugby, right? Sometimes. Yeah. And the distance changes all the time. Whereas with field goal attempts, obviously the field goal attempts they do change, but generally, if you're in 40 yards, you should be scoring a field goal, right? It's almost like a given. Like when the team gets to within 40 yards and they're on the fourth down, it's like, okay, we're just going to kick it. We'll take the points. And it's like a given that it's just going to go in. Yeah. And it still amazes me that they don't even get conversions all the time, which is like 15 yards away.
Johnny Wilkinson, I bet he's bloody furious every time he watches one of these kicks. He's like, I was doing that for like 20 years.
Yeah.
And I was also playing the game.
I was playing tackling and passing and scoring tries left, right and centre.
Oh man, it's crazy.
It is. Oh mate, that's pretty brutal. You don't want it to ride on the kicker though, because like I say, they're on so sporadically. They aren't warmed up ever.
Yeah.
They're never.
You see him kicking into that little net at the sidelines, but that's not the same. How about Seahawks, man?
I'm feeling good.
Yeah?
It's a good start.
Okay.
Seahawks, for the last few years, we've gone through this phase of losing the first 2 or 3 games and then having to recover the entire season to scrape into the playoffs.
Right.
Which normally would be fine because the 49ers normally suck. The Rams normally suck, and the
other
Cardinals
people in your division
suck, who are our division, exactly.
Yeah.
But obviously the 49ers don't suck anymore. The Cardinals haven't really sucked for a while now, and the Rams were one of these weird teams that were just rubbish but could always beat us. So it was just like they would lose to everyone else, but they'd win against Seattle. It was almost like a grudge match where they'd just do everything to stop us from winning. But that's not the case this season. So we've won the first 2 games. So we beat the Falcons, we beat New England.
2-0, baby.
And we're feeling pretty good. And they weren't... I mean, it was a nail-biter against New England, the last game. We had a interception early on, and they scored against us, basically, right at the beginning of the game. Right. And considering that, which is pretty devastating, like when you are starting with the ball and you've made a decent headway and then they just intercept and then score, it's pretty hard to come back from. But we did it. I mean, it was close.